healed. But I nodded. That night, they slept in the barn out back. I gave them bread, water, blankets. I stayed awake listening to the wolves cry in the hills and asked whatever God still listened why people like her always had to give more than they could afford. In the morning, she was gone. The shawl lay folded on the barn floor. Her son sat beside it, staring at nothing. I didn't ask. I just walked with him into the woods, spade in one hand, the bracelet in my pocket. We buried her under a crooked pine where the earth was soft and the wind whispered through the trees like breath. He didn't say a word. Not when we dug. Not when we prayed. Not when I dropped the bracelet onto the fresh earth. But later that night, I heard footsteps outside my window. He stood under the stars, arms folded, eyes locked on the sky like it owed him something. I stepped outside. The air was sharp. My breath fogged in front of me. He didn't look at me. "She told me to protect you," he said. Then he turned, walked back to the barn, and closed the door. And just like that, we were bound. The next morning, the firewood was stacked neat by the door. The roof patch I'd been putting off was fixed. A broken trap had been rewired and set behind the shed. He moved like a man who didn't know how to ask to stay, so he just started helping, hoping that would be enough. We never talked much. But he started leaving things. A carved wooden horse. Rough, uneven, no tail. I found it on my porch one morning and sat with it in my hands until the sun came up. It was ugly. Precious. Beautiful the way only broken things can be. Sometimes, I'd catch him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking. His face was hard always. But his eyes? They were a storm that never passed. Winter deepened. The nights became brutal. We didn't speak about what we were. Didn't ask for more than what was already being given. He hunted. I cooked. He repaired. I cleaned. He stayed. Then the men from town came. 4 of them. Vowed, drunk crow. They didn't like that I lived alone. Didn't like that I'd taken in an Apache. Didn't like that I said no to them when they came around before. They rode in with torches and laughter that made my blood turn cold. One of them threw a bottle at the barn. It shattered against the door and fire spilled out like a scream. I ran. But he was already there. No fear. No words. Just movement. The first man didn't even know he'd been hit until he was flat on his back, blood on the snow. The second reached for his gun and got a broken arm instead. The third turned and ran. The fourth tried to stay brave, until his horse kicked and dropped him face first into the mud. The fire caught fast. But he fought it with his coat, with his hands, with his body. Smoke blackened his skin. Ash stuck to his face like war paint. When the flames were out, I found him in the snow. Kneeling. In one hand, the carved horse. In the other, the bracelet. I knelt beside him. My coat around his shoulders. "I'm not your mother," I whispered, voice shaking. "But I want to be the one who stays. If you'll let me." He didn't speak. But he didn't let go of my hand. And sometimes, that's all a person needs to say. The days that followed were quiet. Too quiet. Not the peaceful kind. The kind where silence feels like something sitting on your chest. Where every breath feels borrowed. Where you can hear memories louder than footsteps. He barely slept. Just sat outside most nights, knife in hand, carving things into wood he never kept. I saw a bear once. A bird. Then a face that looked like his mother's. He never said her name. I never asked. But I knew the way he wiped snow from her grave every morning. I knew the way he checked the door 3 times before he slept, just in case the men came back. And I knew the way he looked at me, like I was something he didn't deserve but couldn't stop protecting. One morning, I found the barn door open. The firewood was gone. All of it. He'd vanished. My gut twisted. The kind of panic that comes when something's been taken before and you swore it would never happen again. I tracked his prints 1/2 a mile into the forest. Found him at the edge of the frozen river, shirtless, barefoot, kneeling in the snow like the cold couldn't touch him. His hands were raw. He was stacking logs. Trying to build something. "I can't stay in the house," he said when he finally noticed me. "Not all the way." I didn't know what that meant. Not until I stepped closer. He wasn't building a home. He was building a fire. But it wasn't to warm him. He placed the wooden horse in the center. Then the bracelet. Then pieces of his mother's shawl. I thought maybe if I let it all burn, he whispered, I could start again. His voice cracked like glass. It was the first time I'd heard him speak more than a sentence. I walked over, sat beside him in the snow. My hands found his, shaking. You don't have to burn it, I said. Not all of it. Not yet. He didn't move for a long time. Then, slowly, he pulled the bracelet from the pile, slipped it into his coat pocket. The wooden horse stayed. We sat there until the sun came up, until the fire turned to embers, until his breathing evened out and the wind stopped clawing at us like it was trying to take what little we had left. From that day on, something changed. He started coming inside more, sat at the table, ate with me, asked questions. He fixed the leak in the roof with cedar bark and old nails, told me stories in pieces, never the whole thing, but enough to feel like I'd been there. Like the time he tried to teach his sister to throw a knife and she'd cut her legs so bad they thought she'd never walk again. Or how his father used to sing when he was drunk, but only songs no one else knew. Or how the only dream he ever had was to leave. But now he was still here. So was I. One night, I found him sewing a tear in my coat. The light from the fire danced on his face. He looked up and said, You sleep facing the door. Like I do. I nodded. Means we still expect the world to hurt us. That night I turned my back to the door, and he lay beside me. We didn't touch, didn't speak, but it was the warmest night of my life. The snow began to melt. Tiny rivers ran through the yard. Life tried to return. But peace never stays long in places where grief has roots. The sheriff came in spring. He brought 2 men, well-dressed, pale hands, government papers. Said the boy had a record. Said he'd been accused of hurting a white man 2 counties over. Said they were taking him back. I stood in front of my door. Said no. Said they could try. The sheriff looked at me like I was a sick dog, not angry, just disappointed. They promised they'd come back. With more men. With ropes. He stood behind me the whole time. When they left, he walked out to the river. Threw rocks until his hands bled. Then he said the words I'd been afraid of since the beginning. I can't stay. I walked toward him, touched his shoulder. You can't leave. They'll kill you. They'll kill you first. He looked at me then. For the first time, really looked. I'd rather die fighting for something real, he said, than keep running from things that already killed me. I didn't cry. I should have. But some part of me knew this day would come. That night, we packed everything into the wagon. Not to run. To meet them halfway. If they were going to come for him, they'd have to take me too. We lit candles in the windows. Put bread on the table. Burned sage in the corners of the room. The barn was gone. So were the ghosts. But not the fire. Never the fire. The next morning, they came. With horses. With guns. And with a rope already tied. They came at dawn. 8 of them this time. The sheriff. 2 marshals. 5 men who looked like they'd never built a thing in their lives but had broken plenty. They stopped at the gate. Dust rising behind them like ghosts. The noose hung from a saddle horn, swinging softly in the wind. He stood beside me on the porch. No fear on his face. Just stillness. Like a tree that refused to bend no matter how hard the storm came. The sheriff raised a hand. Step aside. We don't want trouble. I didn't move. Neither did he. You sheltering a criminal, one of the deputies said. He murdered a man. He defended a girl, I said. Your records didn't mention that part. The sheriff glanced at the others. He didn't deny it. Just shifted in his saddle, annoyed at how long this was taking. You make this harder than it has to be, and it won't end clean. I looked up at him. No part of this is clean. They dismounted. All 8. Guns at their sides, hands already curling around the grips. He stepped forward. But I grabbed his hand. No. I won't let them hurt you. I won't let you die. He looked down at me. Eyes full of storm again. Then we fight. We moved fast. Not because we had hope, but because there was no other option. He threw the lantern into the dry grass by the fence. Flames shot up like the earth had been waiting to burn. I grabbed the rifle from under the porch and fired into the air. Twice. The horses panicked. Screamed. One man got kicked. Another fell back. He charged. Not with a weapon. With his bare hands. Like he was the weapon. One marshal tried to draw, but was tackled, disarmed, and face first in the dirt before he could shout. The sheriff pulled a revolver. Aimed it straight at my head. I didn't flinch. Before he could fire, a hatchet flew from the barn. The old one, rusted but sharp. It hit the porch post beside him, buried deep in the wood. Enough to make him pause. Enough for me to run. We didn't win that day. Not in the way people mean when they talk about winning. But we didn't lose either. Because we didn't die. We ran. Into the woods. Into the cold. Into a place where no maps reached and no boots followed. They burned the cabin. Burned the fields. Took everything we'd built and scattered it like it never mattered. But they didn't get him. Didn't get me. And that was the last thing they saw. The two of us running, side by side, into a storm. For weeks we lived like shadows. A cave became our home. A river our bath. We built traps, caught fish, dried berries. Laughed once or twice. I learned he could sing. Raspy. Old songs in a language I didn't know but somehow felt. He sang one night by the fire, eyes closed, and for a moment I didn't see the man who'd fought for me. I saw the boy who lost his sisters. I saw the son who buried his mother. And I saw the husband he might become, if the world ever left us alone long enough. That night I kissed him. He didn't kiss back. At first. But when he did, it wasn't soft. It wasn't slow. It was years of silence, grief, and hope crashing through one mouth into another like it couldn't be held anymore. When we woke the next morning, he whispered something into the back of my neck. Don't ever leave. I won't, I said. But I didn't know the snow would come early that year. Didn't know how deep it would fall. Or how cold it would get. The snow came in silence. At first, just dust on the trees. So gentle. Almost beautiful. But then the wind changed. And the mountains closed in. Within 2 days, we were buried. The river froze solid. The firewood ran low. The traps stopped catching. The cave grew colder than outside. He gave me his coat. I gave him the last of the salted meat. We stopped talking to save breath. Every sound felt too loud. Every step too heavy. And every heartbeat felt like a countdown to something we didn't want to name. One morning, I woke to find him gone. I ran outside in nothing but a blanket, feet cut on the ice, shouting his name into the white. No answer. Just snow swallowing every sound. I found him 2 miles down the ridge, curled around a dead deer, hands purple, eyes half closed. He'd gone out to feed me. To keep his promise. But his body couldn't take the cold. I dragged him back. Built a fire so high the flames touched the cave ceiling. Held him in my arms like a mother would hold a dying child. He didn't speak for hours. Then finally, through cracked lips, I'm not afraid to die. I cried so hard it made my stomach cramp. You're not dying. You hear me? You're not. He smiled. Just barely. Then tell me something true. I didn't hesitate. I love you. He closed his eyes. And whispered back. Then I'll live. The thaw came 6 days later. A scout found us, wrapped in furs, too weak to walk. They weren't from town. Not soldiers. Not lawmen. They were Apache. His uncle. A woman who knew his sisters. A boy who'd heard his name and swore to carry it into legend. They took us home. Not a home made of wood and brick. But one built from memory. From people. From stories kept alive around fire and drum. There was food. Music. Tears. He spoke more in that first week than in the entire year before. He taught the children to carve. He showed the elders where his mother lay. He carried water like it was sacred and laughed like it was stolen back from death. One night, under stars so sharp they felt painted on the sky, he gave me a ring. Not gold. Not silver. Just braided horsehair and a carved piece of antler. He didn't say, "Will you marry me?" Just said, "Stay." And I did. Through every winter that followed. Through the birth of our daughter, who laughed like his sisters and fought like his mother. Through the seasons when pain came back, but not alone this time. And every time I looked at that bracelet, the one he still kept beside the bed, I remembered what started it all. Not a question, not a proposal, but the cry of a mother who refused to let her son disappear into silence. She walked 40 miles through killing frost, carrying nothing but a wish. And somewhere in the middle of nowhere, that wish became a life. Not perfect, not easy, but real. And when people asked how we met, how a broken woman and a grieving warrior became a family, I'd smile and say, "I heard you need a husband. My son is perfect for you." And I'd hear her voice again. Tired, but full of hope. Because somehow it worked. She saved him. And he saved me. And now we save each other. Every day. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something real, then don't just scroll away. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next story that just might change how you see the world.